Hi, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This is the show all about farmers markets. Whether you're a farmers market manager, a farmer, or a food producer selling at farmers markets, or just a curious farmers market shopper, this is the podcast for you. On today's episode of Tent Talk podcast, our guest is Neal Gottlieb, founding twin and CEO of Three Twins Ice Cream. On this episode, we talk with Neal about how he built his ice cream empire and the value of staying in farmers markets while also operating brick and mortar locations, launching a national brand, and why it's important to give back. I'm one of your hosts, Bridget Myers. I've spent years as an on-site farmers market manager, and I've done it all from pulling permits to popping tents.
And I'm another one of your hosts, Justine Marzoni-Mead, hot sauce maker, farmers market vendor, and event facilitator for the Intense Conference.
And I'm Kat Fields-White, Director of San Diego Markets, still hauling barricades at farmers markets every week, and founder of Intense Business.
Welcome back to Tent Talk. Today we're joined by Neal Gottlieb, founding twin and CEO of Three Twins Ice Cream. Neal's ice cream concept was founded in 2005, and since then he's been making delicious, affordable, and accessible ice cream using incredible organic ingredients. Three Twins started as a small and underfinanced scoop shop, but Neal eventually found great success at the Berkeley Farmers Market and began packing pints to sell in supermarkets. As the company grew, Neal and his team maintained a strong commitment to operating Three Twins as a socially responsible business. Now Three Twins has an ice cream line produced in Petaluma, California, Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and is sold in all 50 states and also internationally. If you don't recognize Neal as a contestant on season 32 of Survivor, we're sure you'll know him from the Intense 2018 conference where he was a keynote speaker. So, Neal, we're really excited to have you on. We all loved your presentation at the Intense conference this past February. I know it was one of my favorite ones, not just because I could stare at your ice cream pants, but because your story is so interesting. But so for some of our listeners that weren't there at the conference this year or don't know your story, can you just give us like a little background on the Three Twins ice cream name and why you decided to build an ice cream company?
Or an ice cream empire.
Absolutely.
Empire of
An ice cream empire.
Mm-hmm.
Tiny little empire.
Yeah.
So first the name, which I always forget to tell people because it's just second nature to me. Mm-hmm. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Morocco after working in corporate America for Gap. And when I came back, I needed a place to live. So I moved in with my twin brother and his then fiance, who's also a twin. So we started calling the apartment Three Twins. And then when it was time that I went ahead and started the business, I just couldn't think of any better name.
So catchy and interesting.
Were the other twins involved with you when you started in the ice cream business?
Not really. They were samplers, and
I'm sure
That's
the best way to be involved.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Very little responsibility, just lots of pleasure.
Yeah, like that.
They were early investors when I went from having one scoop shop to two, and now my twin brother is on the board as well.
Oh, nice. So what got you started with your ice cream business? Why ice cream?
Yeah, so I'd worked in corporate America, and I got so bored of sitting in a cubicle and staring at spreadsheets like many people do. Mm-hmm. So I quit and went to the Peace Corps to kind of satisfy that, inner do-gooder within me. And when I came back, I really wanted to combine those two aspects, the part of me that loves business and capitalism and brand building and who wanted to be eventually financially independent so that I wouldn't have to go back to work in a cubicle again. But at the same time, I wanted to do something meaningful. I wanted to do something that was green and earth friendly and facilitated a lot of creativity. And thinking about different businesses and what I could start at 28 with my $70,000 saved up, I decided I'm going to start an ice cream brand because it was something I could start very small in the form of one little scoop shop. But then I always had the goal of building it up into the next great American ice cream brand.
Yeah, so you started with one shop, and then you started with the shop, and then you moved into farmers markets, right?
Exactly. I started with one shop in Marin County, mm-hmm. California. And then, and that location, that shop is in an absolutely terrible location. To get off the highway, drive 2 miles, drive past an ice cream shop. It's now been there like 55 years. That literally 3 generations of people in that neighborhood grew up going to. And then in the went back into this basically cul-de-sac to find the scoop shop. So the first winter was really hard. I opened the last week of summer and went through this awful winter and realized that I had a great product, but nobody knew it was there. So I had to get out and I had to find other places to sell. And this is, right after Omnivore's Dilemma had come out, I believe. Somebody might want to fact check that. But farmers markets were becoming really popular. And it just seemed like that was a way, without making really any significant additional investment, to get out, get additional revenue, and start building a brand outside of the walls of the original scoop shop. It just so happened that the first market I got into was the Berkeley Farmers Market, and Michael Pollan was the regular there. So it really was, the time of Omnivore's Dilemma and the huge surge in popularity of farmers markets.
Yeah. So that was a great place to be. And then as you expanded, I know you stayed in the farmers market. So since we're kind of talking to farmers market people, can you just kind of explain like the value that you found in the farmers market, even as you grew into kind of a national brand and were manufacturing and selling in stores and still had your brick and mortar shops as well? Why did you stay in the farmers market while you were doing all that as you expanded?
So the Berkeley market was the first one that I got into. And over the years, we definitely tried various other farmers markets in the Bay Area. But the Berkeley one for us was really the only one that ever worked. Ice cream is a very difficult product to sell at the farmers market. Melt and die on your own. And so some farmers markets, like the big Marin Civic Center market, is an amazing, big, great farmers market, but it's a terrible market to sell ice cream at because people aren't necessarily coming from a local area, and maybe they're not going home, they're going out to the beach or doing something else. So unfortunately, the Berkeley market was really the only market that ever worked for us, but it worked really well. I could get more revenue in 4 hours at that Berkeley market than I could get in, the 5 weekdays at that first original scoop shop in this tucked away location. So, the primary motivation initially was that it really helped keep the lights on, helped me to cover my overhead and stay in business. But then it was always also a great way to expose people to the brand because it's a targeted customer base. It's these people that are passionate about fresh, delicious, organic food, and they're coming to you every week. So it was a really good opportunity to try stuff out, to allow people to sample the brand, to build knowledge about it. Because not too long after launching at the market, I also started selling pints at about a dozen grocery stores in Northern California. So it was a way to drive people to that business and also get, all sorts of other exposure for the brand that ended up leading, for example, to my Napa shop, and my Napa shop ended up leading to my business in Korea. We export a whole bunch of ice cream to Korea every year, and that happened because of the Berkeley market. So, farmers markets are a really great opportunity to basically have, depending on the market, but in the case of this Berkeley market, prime retail space for 4 hours a week. And I myself sold at the market for about 2 years, and then my parents moved to California, and I am not a morning person. Ended up starting to work for me, so I passed the market on to them, and they ended up doing it for for 9 years or so.
Yeah. They just retired, right?
Yeah, they just retired December 23rd of this past year. So it was a good opportunity to continue doing it. The revenue definitely decreased, I think, for a number of factors. One is that I think there's fewer people probably shopping at farmers markets, or there's as many people shopping at farmers markets, but there's just more farmers markets as well. Mm-hmm. So I think that formula became a little more difficult. And then, the Berkeley market used to be one of the few places where you could get this amazing organic ice cream, but now you can get it in probably 5,000 locations in the United States including every Whole Food. So people don't really have a reason necessarily to buy a pint of ice cream at the farmer's market and have to go straight home because you're worried that it's going to melt.
Yeah.
Instead, they buy it at Whole Foods.
Yeah, we were just talking about that people that apply to the markets that say, and I'm on Amazon and I'm in Whole Foods and I'm here and here and here, and they're trying to impress us as to why they should be coming into the farmer's market. And we often say, it sounds to us like you've got really wide distribution. That's not really what makes you a good fit for a farmer's market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People coming out specifically to get it. If they can get it at the grocery store, especially with ice cream, it's like way more convenient to get it at the grocery store than to be like, okay, I got to go right home to my freezer after I go to the farmer's market. Yeah, that sounds like a product that's maybe better.
Yeah, most people don't have carts at the markets. You're lugging stuff around.
Yeah.
You go to the market for fresh things, and you go to the market for that sensory experience, and you go to the market to get unique things. So, we became a bit ubiquitous, victim of our own success as far as the markets go. We kept doing it because, we took a lot of pride in that market, and my parents enjoyed it, and it was really such an important step in building the brand.
Yeah.
But then, at some point, you gotta know when to fold them. And in this case, it was that my parents wanted to have a little more time to travel. They're just turned 73. They're turning 73 this year. Mm-hmm. So
I say they deserve a Saturday off.
Yeah. That's not bad.
So Neal, it sounds like you had kind of the vision for Three Twins from the beginning, that you wanted a big national brand. Is that true? Did you, when you were first starting out, you're like, I'm going to be a national brand? Or how did you kind of come to that aspiration of seeing your company grow to be as big as you are now?
Yeah, that really was an aspiration from the beginning. I just, in my case, I felt like if I'm going to put in all this effort and all this risk in starting a business, I also want the potential upside of starting a bigger business. It's more successful, that has more impact. We're number 1% for the planet. So the more I can sell, the more I can give away.
Yeah.
The more organic agriculture we end up supporting, because now, because we're selling millions of pints a year, we're also supporting the production of millions of pounds of organic produce, whether that's the milk or the vanilla or the sugar or the eggs. So it allows us to have more impact. And lifestyle wise, I live in Marin County, and you need to sell at more than one farmer's market in order to ever be able to afford a house there. So there's
there's
independence aspect of it. Yeah, minor detail. Not wanting to be in debt one's whole life.
Right.
Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about the process of opening your own factories? I remember when you talked about that at Intense, I was so curious, just because I just went through the nerve-wracking process of finding a co-packer and going through that whole experience. So could you just shed a little light on why you decided to go forward with building out your own facilities rather than outsourcing the production of your ice cream?
Yeah, I looked into using a co-packer back in, this is 2007, 2008. And at the time, there were really only two potential organic co-packers of organic ice cream out there. One would have been direct competition, and so they weren't going to produce for us because we'd be positioned similarly. It was Oregon Ice Cream, which is now still very much direct competition.
Or do you think they'd make it and then spit in it or do something horrible to it?
Well, I mean, a co-packer can always stop making your stuff. So, the Three Twins pints were positioned to compete directly with their brand Julie's ice cream. And so at some point, if we were doing well, they were probably going to not be happy about that and not make ice cream for us anymore. And when I started, Julie's had probably about a 60-70% of the organic pint market share. And of course we had 0, and now they have about a 10%, and we have a 50 or 60% market share.
So you're a big segment.
It wouldn't have worked well if they were making our ice cream. It wouldn't have. And then there was another company, but somebody warned me about their quality, and thankfully they did, because their company ended up going out of business, and so we would have been stranded without production, which would have been really disastrous. So when the choices are so limited, and in this case they were really limited to no good choices, it just made sense for me to open up the factory. And the thought was to be able to produce a lot more ice cream, make it of higher quality than the 500, 600 hand-packed pints that I was making each week. And then, be able to build a brand that way. But of course, it ended up taking a lot longer than expected and costing a lot more money. So it was a very painful, stressful, awful experience. I realized basically right after the financial downturn that I had only raised about half as much money as I would ultimately need to get the factory open. So had to stop construction for 9 months. Thought I was just going to lose everything, and then ended up getting lucky and saving the day and going forward. But it was not a very pleasant experience. I don't necessarily recommend it. If you can,
Ended up working out for you,
yeah, depending on the product, but there's so many people with excess capacity. I think it just really depends on your product. If you have a really specialized product, maybe it doesn't make sense. But generally speaking, if you're going from the farmer's market to having a packaged product, we're talking relatively small scale, most likely not large enough scale in order to support the construction and operations of a factory. I would definitely recommend, looking into using co-packers if you can.
Yeah. Well, in addition to not opening your own factory, what advice do you have for food makers who aspire to build a national brand? Maybe they're just starting out, or maybe they're already in farmers markets, or they're well on their way. Can you give some brands those tips of how to make it?
Yeah, first and foremost, you don't become a national brand by accident in most cases. You really have to aspire and work hard for it. So you have to come up with packaged products, and go about selling them to grocery stores. And that starts typically small with, your own boots on the ground, knocking on doors, going door to door. But then eventually you have to get into chains in order to have, real impact and real scale. But there's so many products out there. There's literally millions of different SKUs, millions of different individual products out in the marketplace right now. So if you're going to contribute something to that crowded field, if you're going to become a national brand, you have to offer something that makes your brand, really compelling to become that national brand. You have to be differentiated. You have to be relevant. You have to be a brand that people will hold in high esteem, and you have to build knowledge. So, two of the product categories that I think of that are just so difficult at this stage to build a national brand are like jellies and granola, because there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of brands of each of those. So unless you're doing something really different and compelling, but at the same time, doing it in a way to keep your product relevant, you need to be differentiated. But if you're differentiated because, you're the world's only macadamia nut granola and it's $15 a pound, there's just not much potential to make that, the morning cereal of a large portion of the populace. So you really have to think about, what am I doing differently that's going to compel store buyers, first of all, to put it into their stores, which is kind of the easy part of the battle. And then the real thing is, how am I going to stay there? And the only reason you stay in a grocery store long term is that people are buying your product. So what is it about your product that's going to appeal to consumers? So, branding is absolutely everything. The first steps, and I was not great about this, but I'd say the first step is you need to have a product that looks like it is a national brand. Even if you're selling in one store, the deli container with the label that you printed at home just doesn't cut it, because it looks hard, it looks amateur. It makes you wonder, did somebody make this at home? Is this made in somebody's bathtub? It doesn't it doesn't sell well necessarily next to the national brands of things. So when I was selling at farmers markets, I had a printed Three Twins label, a round label that went on the top of the container. And then I had a little label that was printed on the computer at the store, like just basically a mailing label that had the flavor and the ingredients. And that was a fine start for the farmers market. Although I feel like over the last 12 years, since I've been in the game, I feel like farmers market packaging has really improved. People
absolutely.
People are understanding that having a delicious product isn't enough. Having a good story is enough. You really need to have the full package, literally, and figuratively. So packaging. I mean, when I started selling in grocery stores, I came up with a full wrap label that would go on the side of the container, and then one that would go on the top. And didn't look nearly as nice as a fully printed pint container like we have now, but it was much, much better than what I was previously offering at the farmer's market.
Yeah. Do you think, so you have 3 different ice cream lines now. Do you think that's important as you grow to continue to diversify? So you now own a certain group of customers' loyalty. Do you think you have to give them more Three Twins things to buy?
Yeah, so we have 3 brands. Three Twins is the core original premium brand that's primarily in pints and in novelties. And then this past year, I launched Maxine's, which is named after my farmer's market working mother. It's kind of the ultimate coupon clipping supermom. So it's a family-sized brand, family-friendly value. And then we also launched Slim Twin, which is a pint brand of low-calorie, high-protein, low-fat ice cream. So, it really depends. There's all sorts of different ways to grow a brand. In our case, with Three Twins, I just felt like it wasn't one of the original missions of the brand was to make great organic stuff accessible. And I felt like despite the fact that for a premium organic product, we're relatively inexpensive for the mom shopping for herself and her 2 kids. And, we're relatively expensive compared to a Dryers or Breyers or, any of those mass market brands. So I wanted to have a brand that would become more approachable. But at the same time, perhaps I could have grown by introducing more flavors. Although at this point, like in Northern California, we have 23 flavors. So
so
there's diminishing returns, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whole Foods is only going to give me so many shelves. They're not going to give me 15 shelves. So at some point, it's kind of diminishing returns.
Do they give you more shelves because you've got different things? I mean, can you get a shelf in the family size package area of the freezer?
Yeah, that is a different shelf than the pint section of the freezer. Mm-hmm. So Maxine's cannibalized Three Twins very little. Slim Twin, which is also pints, like Three Twins, actually ended up cannibalizing Three Twins quite a bit in stores.
Oh, because of the size, yeah.
Because it's kind of all the same shelf space. The same shelf space is allocated for it.
Gotcha. I think this is a really interesting thing for farmers markets too, because we've thought about adding more flavors of hot sauce, but then we wondered, okay, well, if we made more flavors of our hot sauce, is that going to keep somebody from buying another one of our hot sauces? Right. But right now we have 4 flavors that are different enough where somebody could realistically buy all 4 and they don't feel weird about it because they're such different flavors. Different. Yeah. So I think this is something really interesting to think about for farmers markets vendors as well, coming up with alternate takes on their own products. Is that actually going to grow your business, or is that going to just have your your customers buy something else?
To another.
Mm-hmm. Just shift.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think it really depends on the product category. So if I was still at farmers markets, people are only going to eat one dessert. So at some point,
we're all going to have more than that.
At some point, you're cannibalizing yourself, but at the same time, maybe you're also reaching a broader base of consumers by launching those new products.
Right.
It really depends on the category. So, let's say for years we sold next to this vendor, Picante, in Berkeley that they sell masa and they sell salsas and they sell tortilla chips. So they didn't always have the tortilla chips as far as I remember, but that was a great addition because, they're already selling salsas and it's just an easy add-on to be able to buy the delicious chips that are going to go with your farmer's market salsa. But I think it really depends on kind of the product category and what your production capacity is, what your kind of facility you have, and what things you're capable of making.
Well, so will Three Twins ever diversify further and make something other than ice cream? Will you be able to buy Three Twins cones or Three Twins morning protein bars in ice cream flavors? Or will you do something different?
Protein bars. Those aren't exactly my favorite category. We do actually have a line of dry cones. So we have sugar cones and we have cake cones that we started selling a couple of years ago. They're not a huge part of the business just because of the nature of the product, but we had to have cones manufactured for when we started selling the sundae cones. So it seemed to make sense in order to package those up and sell them as their own distinct product. And, to bring our organic principles and quirkiness to something outside the freezer.
Well, and you've been in this a long time. Will you do something completely different? Are you ready to create a whole new product?
I mean, we're not working on anything right now. Spoiler alert. One of the things I love about the Three Twins brand, the name, is that it just kind of has this universal feel to it, where I think it could certainly appeal to brands in other parts of the grocery store. Yeah. But that's, we just launched 2 new brands of frozen dessert, so
that's enough to keep you busy for now. Yeah,
working on that for now. Exactly.
So our last kind of topic that we wanted to talk to you about is you've got Three Twins has a big commitment to social responsibility. Is that something that you started at the very beginning or after you reached like a certain level of profitability? Can a brand new brand, a struggling new business, can they afford to be giving back? Can they afford to be dedicating part of their program? What's that?
Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but can they afford not to give back?
Yeah, perfect answer.
Yeah.
There's no altruism in business. It's also marketing. Whether or not your heart is pure, the fact is that by giving away, people like you more. So I think it's a smart thing to do. I mean, people like you more, but you also like yourself more. Like I'm really proud of the fact that Three Twins is a member of 1% for the Planet. So we give away 1% of our sales, regardless of profitability. And at the same time, we have a land conservation initiative that I started about 5 years ago, tied in, called Ice Cream for Acres. So when you buy a pint of Three Twins, it funds the purchase of 6 square feet of land. And when you buy a pack of ice cream sandwiches, I think it's 6, and you buy a quart, it's 10 square feet of land. And it's a great lesson to consumers that such a seemingly insignificant choice, such as which ice cream to buy, can have really profound impact. We've funded the purchase of somewhere over 4,000 acres of land so far. Wow. So the square feet add up. My history of giving with the business started about a week in. Hurricane Katrina happened like 2 days after I opened the doors. And so that next week I did a name your own price ice cream social where people could have whatever they wanted for whatever the price they wanted to pay. And through that raised, I want to say it was just under $1,500, which was a ton of money because at the time on a weekday, the scoop shop was doing like $100.
Yeah, right.
Really bad. So that really put the DNA of giving into the brand. And then shortly thereafter, that following spring, when I started selling to farmers market and I started doing packaged pints, I also joined 1% for the Planet. So,
really early.
That's always, I think you have to do, because it's kind of like getting off the couch and starting a business. Like there's no perfect time to do it, but you just, if that's something you find meaningful and you want to do it, you need to do it now, because there's never going to be a great time to say, oh yeah, now we can start writing those checks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great answer.
Yeah. That's good to pass on to our other smaller vendors too, who really want to like be in some kind of way giving back, maybe tell them you can just start small, but if you want to give back, like follow that right now, because then it'll just be built into your business.
Yeah.
Like build it in now into your business plan.
Yeah.
And so it can just grow as your business grows.
And I think especially at the farmers market, people are there because they want to be involved in that in some way,
Yeah.
right? Or they want to reduce waste, so they bring their own bags, or they, like to buy things in glass jars. So I think especially for farmers markets vendors, like that's kind of built into the ethos of the farmers market shopper. And so, like you said, it can be altruistic, but it can also be a marketing.
Smart marketing.
Yeah.
People like you better. That's what Neal said. Yeah.
It can't be altruistic though, because like no matter how pure your heart is, like you're getting a marketing benefit from it, and how whether or not that marketing benefit outweighs what you're giving away, who knows? I don't know how to measure that.
Right.
No, but it's for me, even in those dark winter days when you just wonder if you're going to make it through the winter, it's a shining light to make you feel that it's not just about you trying to make some money and grow a business, but it's also about, really, truly about having positive impact in this beautiful world as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely. It means a lot. Well, thanks so much for talking with us today. We do have a kind of question of the week that we do on every episode that kind of pertains to our guests. So our question, and we'll kind of answer here and then see what your answer is. Since we're speaking to farmers market people on this podcast, we want to kind of ask about, I know you said you weren't a morning person, so maybe the first part of the farmers markets weren't your favorite, but since like reflecting back on your time at the farmers market, what is something that you miss about participating in the farmers market? It could be anything that you really enjoyed there that, you don't, since you're not there anymore. And then since all three of us are actually still a part of farmers markets, I know we've expanded and grown our business to also do education programming. And, we've said, well, should we keep doing the farmers markets or should we focus on this? And we know that we always want to keep doing the markets here. But if we were to leave, I'm going to ask around here as market managers and vendors, what would we miss about the farmers market? So Justine, I'll kind of start with you. If you were to not be selling, maybe expand into retail and turn Baby Clydesdale into national brand and didn't do the farmers markets anymore, what's something that you would miss about participating?
Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm a pretty pragmatic, organized person.
We've noticed that.
We've noticed. That's why you're here helping us.
Clipboard on my arm. I don't know. There's just something about the ritual of getting there and setting up, and it's almost like there's this production to it that you're getting ready for the day. And although I don't want to be the person on stage necessarily, that's where Dave comes in, but I like that setting up and you're getting your things in order, and then when it's showtime, you're on, and then I fade back into obscurity and Dave takes over. But yeah. I don't know, there's something about the performative aspect of it that I don't know, it's getting ready for a show each week, and it's fun and exciting.
Yeah, I like that. I miss that too. Kat, what do you think you would miss?
Just from where I am now, that curtain going up thing used to be my big charge too, and seeing regular customers that you see week after week. But I guess from where I am now, because I do combine the management of the markets and because I'm the one that curates, so I bring in new people, what I'd really miss is watching people grow and hitting their stride. They grow up so fast, or some of them grow up so slowly, but it's still fun to see somebody come in with that one little tiny sign, and then you make a suggestion to them, and then they get a bigger colorful banner, and then you make another suggestion and their packaging gets a little bit better, and then you turn around all of a sudden a year later and they're really jamming and they're supporting their family with what they're making, and they're able to help other people, and it's a satisfying thing to be involved in.
Yeah, and see them actually do that when you're there at the market,
Right.
set up their booth and watch how they grow and transition.
Yeah.
For sure.
What would you miss, Bridget, if you weren't at markets anymore? You're not at markets as much as you used to be.
Yeah.
So you come back every once in a while, special projects, new markets. What do you miss?
Yeah, so there's, things I don't miss, like towing cars and things like that. But I think what I really like best about the farmers market, which makes sense why I've kind of transitioned into focusing on the education point, but is educating the shoppers, and not in a lecture-y kind of way, because sometimes we just get silly questions at the farmers markets, where's the central register, or is this produce grown here, or things like that, just those questions. And it's not, I like to take the approach that's my purpose as a market manager, to be there and to say, hi, come into this place and let me tell you about farmers markets, and let me tell you why they're so special and what you can find here. So you can find these local farmers, and then look at this person, like they came up with this hot sauce recipe and now they sell it here and they're here every week, and let them tell you about it. Or if there's a mom with little kids at the farmer's market, and it's kind of hard to shop, it's like the kids are going wild, I say, hey, well, might I suggest like take them and get a little snack at this booth? They have granola or crackers or something they can munch on, and we have this live music, and then your kids will chill out and you can relax and shop, because that's what I do when I shop at the markets now when I'm not working with my kids. So just kind of showing people how to shop the markets and giving them a little, like a mini education, why we're here, and really making that personal connection.
Yeah,
and
letting people know why it's so important to let the farmers make more money.
Yeah, and like we all know this
farming.
we all know this information so well, but it's these little things, and I can see little light bulbs go off, like, oh, really? I didn't know that, and it's just really great to see that. So I think I would miss that if I didn't get to come in and do markets once in a while. So Neal, what do you think? What do you miss about being the person in the booth at the farmer's market?
Or, face to face at a special event
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I really loved those days of sitting on the back of the pickup truck and having those direct customer interactions that I, don't get in the same way anymore by any means. And getting the satisfaction of the sale and then going home with a wad of cash at the end of the day, like that was, it was very satisfying. Like you truly felt like you're in business. And just the environment is so wonderful. It beats sitting in my office, like we do a lot of now. And then I also miss trading, going home with this
That's the best.
bounty that I paid very little money for. So.
And it's all the best stuff too. It's not like, the leftover size, just like everyone's like best products, and you get to go home with such cool stuff. I love that part.
Yeah. End of the market, wrapping it up. I'll give you those tomatoes if you give me this sauce.
Yeah. Love that part. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for speaking with us, Neal. And, thanks for being part of Intense Conference this year. It was so great. And we're really looking forward to seeing what Three Twins does and grows, and eating your ice cream
And what new things pop up on your pants.
Yes. Always looking at the pants.
Watch on Instagram to see what new ice cream pants Neal has.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, thanks, Neal.
Thanks.
All right, we'll
Thanks
talk to
so
you
much,
soon.
Neal.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Good
Bye-bye.
night. Bye.
Thanks for listening along. Please leave us a review on iTunes and tell us how you liked today's episode. Also, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss our next episode. And if you want more farmers market tips, you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter at intensebusiness.com and follow us on Instagram at intensebusiness. That's INTENTS business. The 2019 Intense Conference will be held in San Diego, February 24th through 26th.
This podcast is produced by Intense Business, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni-Mead. Original music by David Mead. Special thanks to our guests Neal Gottlieb and San Diego Markets.